everyone, this is Keith Scott from out in Sydney, Australia. I'm one of the voices of Bullwinkle J. Moose. It's time to watch Relentless and Unstoppable. And so give it up for your main hosts, Douglas Kelly and Andy McPhee.
Yeah, for sure. As far as my hiking at a young age, I think the highest I got, if I recall correctly, was Twin Sisters. But then I came within like 400 yards or 400 feet, whatever it was, of summiting Flat Top Mountain, but a blizzard forced me back.
Oh, bummer. The
Yeah.
Flat Top's cool. I've never done the hike over to Grand Lake, but I've driven over Trail Ridge Road quite a few times. That's a really cool drive.
Yeah,
I think
especially when you realize that the divide when you go from Estes to Grand Lake is not on the mountains. It's in a tiny meadow, and you're just like, what?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I like it first thing in the morning, like you leave Estes and it's still dark and you get to look back and see the sunrise over the mountains, from the top of the mountains rather. It's cool. It's really cool up there. How long did you live in Estes?
I lived in Estes from birth until I turned 14 years of age, and then I came to Arizona. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. How's that transition been outside of getting out of Colorado?
The transition only lasted for like, I think maybe a year or two. The transition was basically, it started on March 18th when I wrapped up school with Estes Park School District. I was in middle school at the time, and my final project for schooling there was the Ellis Island deal. I'm sure you know about that.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, I had to play a Norwegian character, and that was actually that was a good role for me because I have a lot of Scandinavian ancestry, and I'm actually a descendant of an ancestor whose last name is, I think it's very similar to Kenny, Kenney, but there's just a tiny adjustment to it, which I think is in the middle. There's like a J, and there's also like a slash over the E. And so, yeah, there's a lot of Scandinavian ancestry in me, and I have British ancestry. And I just found out last week I have a bit of Spanish in me as well.
Oh, exciting, exciting. I should do an ancestry test. I find that most of my family came from the Russia region. Would be Eastern Europe, kind of Western Russia area, and I think it would benefit me to know what the ancestry has to say. I know a lot of our biological markers for foods that we process well, or maybe allergies that we get exposed to. Those kind of things can show up, and we can learn a little bit more about ourselves just from DNA testing.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also a good job to help with, connecting people and finding out family tree stuff and how we're all connected, even if we're not blood connected. It's just very, very interesting what they were doing. I was just going to get back to the transition phase for Colorado and Arizona. I left Estes and we drove down to our then residence of Florence. And originally I went to school again at a tiny middle school, but things didn't work out there just because it became toxic. And so basically I was just given the final 2 weeks at home just to sort of recuperate and rest for the year. But then I transitioned to high school because I had enough standing to move on, despite not being at middle school for most of the final 2 months. And then high school, man, that was a process. I had to interact with people that I didn't know, and I got exposed to things that weren't really exposed to me growing up, and a lot of people that were having their own demons. And, I was addicted to soda for 17 years since Dr. Pepper bottle was handed to me at 5 years of age, and gained a lot of weight. And then I just, high school just the first 2 years were good, but the final 2 years were not. They were not really fun. And when it ended, I was just glad to be done. I was just sort of done with it. And, I needed to do things that made me fun, that made sense, and, allowed me to have fun. So, yeah.
I hear that. I hear that. I'm happy to be past high school as well. I feel like I needed a few extra years to grow up and mature, and high school didn't help me a whole lot. Moving into the real world was key for my development personally.
Yeah, in my case, it was not just high school that was a big struggle. I had a mental breakdown in 2010 and 2014 just because of some demons that I had at the time, and also the soda addiction because I was gaining weight. I was up to 400 pounds at one point, and it just, and I remember in my second breakdown, I was hospitalized at Phoenix Children's Hospital, which was a way better rehab than what I got in 2010. And it just, while I was in there, I remember going through rehab, and then my doctor that was presiding over it, he came in abruptly during a group therapy session and informed me that my parents had separated. And that led to a divorce that happened within months. And that was a tough and disappointing time, even though I supported my parents in their decision, but still that, divorce is not a good process, but, you have to push on, you have to move on and push through it, and just accept that, it happens sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's a big, I find myself saying that maybe more than I probably should, but it's just, it happens, and you gotta get back up and keep moving forward. The world doesn't stop around us, so we got to keep going.
Gee, that's all we have for Relentless and Unstoppable. So tune into the next episode to hear more amazing stories from amazing guests. This is Keith Scott from Sydney, Australia, saying so long, and I'm smarter than the average bear. Gee.